A payload is a piece of code that executes on the target system, and it helps us carry out some of the operations, such as connect to the command line of the target after a successful exploitation. To basically understand what a payload does, let's consider a real-world example. So I want to show you an example that I heard of before, which helps me understand it as well. Payloads are kind of an explosive material that's in the head of a missile. When the missile hits the target, the explosive material causes the damage desired by the owner. Now, the owner of the missile can change the explosive material as well as the payloads. So that's the way that the Metasploit framework works with payloads. It allows you to perform some operations on the target system. For example, a reverse shell is a payload that creates a connection from the target machine back to you as a Windows command prompt, whereas a bind shell is a payload that binds a command prompt to a listening port on the target machine, which you can then connect to. This screenshot shows various categories of payload modules present in the Metasploit framework. So I'm going to go to the Metasploit directory to view payloads. I'm using GUI to be clearer. And here, under the payload folder, you're going to see three different kinds of folders named singles, stagers, and stages. These are the main payload types. Singles are the payloads that consist of the exploit and require shellcode, which means they have everything that is required to exploit the vulnerability on the target. Naturally, the size of these payloads is pretty big. Thus, it's not going to be good for if you want to be stealthy. So, for example, this one, Meterpreter Reverse TCP. And stagers. Just so you know, sometimes size really matters. Okay, the stagers payload comes in handy in such a situation. So they don't have the exploit code. That means they're going to be smaller in size, and it's going to help you in many other tests. Like this one, bind TCP and reverse TCP. And then finally, stages. After the stagers communicate with the target system, stages are then uploaded to the target system to do the actual actions desired by the penetration tester or attacker. And here you see the Meterpreter payload, which is the most used stages payload. And you'll use it in many exploits, but we're going to get to that in some of the later sections. All right, so that's enough theory, don't you think? So open up your terminal again. And just like before, you can use an auxiliary module. Usage is the same. Use, and then the payload name. Use payload, Windows, Meterpreter, bind TCP. Now, let me tell you an important point here. Bind TCP payloads make the attacking machine directly connect to the target. So, when you show the options of this module, there will be rhost and lport variables. Rhost defines the address of the target machine. Now, in this case, it is the IP address of Metasploitable 2. And lport is the port number on the attacking machine that the attacking machine will listen on. And then on the other hand, there is reverse TCP connections. So I'll show you both ways. Use payload, Windows, Meterpreter, reverse TCP. When you show the options, you will see the lhost and lport variables. So in this case, lhost is the IP address of the collie that the target will connect back to. And L port is the port number on the Kali that will listen for incoming connections from the target. So I'm going to set L host as my IP address. Let me check my address on a new tab. Just want to be sure. Okay, 10.10.2.11 is my IP. And I'll set L port to 4445. Then you can use run or generate as the command to generate the shell code of this payload. So this is the payload, and by scrolling down you can view just how long it is. But see, now you can use it as an exploit code. But you're not going to work that way in this course. I'll tell you why coming up.